G'day. As you start to encounter more and more complex geometric problems in the physics course, especially as you're trying to figure out bearings and directions of vectors, your flexible use of various angle rules that you would have learned about through years 7 to 10 in mathematics are going to become more and more powerful tools to you. The purpose of this video is just to go through some of them, revise them, remind you of them, so that hopefully you can come back and reference these videos in order to solve geometric problems in physics. So the first set of rules that I want to remind you of are angle sums. And that is that for certain angles and shapes, no matter how many angles are within that main angle or shape, they always add together to equal the same amount. So first off, complementary angles always add up to 90 degrees. So if you do see somewhere in a diagram a right angle, all of the angles that are inside always add up to 90 degrees. That one's pretty straightforward. Supplementary angles, very similar concept. A straight line that is divided into two or more angles will always add up to 180 degrees. Angle sums that exist in a triangle, so when you add up all three of those angles in the triangle, they add up to 180 degrees. And for a quadrilateral, all four angles always add up to 360 degrees. Next set of rules are all about angles at a point. So another angle sum, again, if you have a series of angles that all come together at a point and you're able to sort of trace all the way around 360 degrees, that means that you can assume that all angles inside will also add up to 360 degrees. The other rule here is vertically opposite angles. So essentially, if you have two straight lines that intersect, they will end up forming that concept of angle sum at a point. They'll always add up to 360 degrees. But one additional rule that you can use is this concept of vertically opposite angles. Opposite pairs of these angles will always be equal. Last set of rules is when we have sets of parallel lines that are divided by what we call a transverse line. Some pairs of angles are equal, some of them add up to 180 degrees. The first one that I want to show you here is corresponding angles. These equal pairs of angles always show up when both angles are on the same side of the transverse line and are either both below or both above their corresponding parallel line. You'll notice that when you draw out both of these angles here, they make or resemble an F shape. So you might see that note somewhere, or might be a shape that you recognize. You can draw out almost a capital F letter with these angles. We also have alternate angles. These are also equal. These come up when we have both angles on either side of the transverse line and are both on the inside of the sets of parallel lines. And these make a characteristic Z shape. So these are alternate angles and they are always equal. The last set that we have are co-interior angles. And these co-interior angles are always on the, again, inside of the parallel lines. But instead of being on opposite ends of the transverse, they are both of the angles on one side of the transverse line. And these aren't equal to each other. We should be able to see that visually, but instead they add up to 180 degrees. They make a characteristic C shape when you draw out all of the lines that are a part of the angles, and we call these angles co-interior angles. Hopefully a lot of these rules were familiar to you. This little revision or reminder session should help you to be able to start to tackle a lot of the complex geometric problems that we'll start to complete when applying our physics knowledge to a variety of practice questions.